Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great time in Alma, Arkansas at Beyond Church. Gosh, the crowds were so good and so hungry. Amazing seeing people so hungry for the coming of the Lord. Very exciting. Also, if you're anywhere near Laconia, New Hampshire, we'll be there this coming Sunday night, Monday night, actually Monday morning, Monday night, Tuesday morning, Tuesday night. And then starting Thursday, we'll be in Springfield, Mass. for Thursday through Sunday. Go to our website. You can get the names of the churches. You can get the information of their websites, and you can get their phone numbers as well. You can always go to our website and get where we are on tour. It shows our itinerary real clear. Also on the website, it shows the 50 different signs and different verses for each of them. So you can always go and look at that. So we're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, specifically the gathering of nations for the Ezekiel 38 war. And boy, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've just been coming out flawlessly, the ones for the Ezekiel 38 war. We do that because the rapture is signless, but the second coming has tons of signs. But if we can look at what's happening just after the rapture, and that would be the Ezekiel 38 war. I have people ask me all the time, how do we know it's that? Well, it goes back to Old Covenant time, and God intervenes to help Israel during the church age. He doesn't intervene. He leaves it up to the church. So right after the church is taken off the earth, God intervenes and pushes back 82% of Russia. So, man, the setup for that's happening right now. That's why in the End of Days Update, we cover the nations that are specifically getting involved with that and don't cover everything because there is so much going on with earthquakes and with volcanoes and locusts and everything. So let's pick up what happened this last week. Man, Iran has several things going on that are totally intriguing to me. So the U.S. government's about to basically release billions of dollars of money from sanctions that have been on Iran. In the midst of America getting ready to do that, Iran produces a video of Iran blowing up the United States Capitol building. And obviously how crazy that is. They produced it and posted it on their state TV program just before the Ayatollah Khomeini is going to speak to the country. So Iran's doing that in the midst of negotiating for sanctions to be taken off. It's just insane, that whole thought pattern right there. In the midst of that, they fired rockets. Iranian militiamen fired rockets into Iraq, at our base in Iraq. I'm so surprised we haven't retaliated for that. But the U.S. base was hit by two rockets. And in the middle of that, you have Iran working with some German companies trying to get some high-tech equipment for more nuclear weapons. It was a German intelligence agency in Bavaria came out saying, hey, Iran's contacting all these companies trying to circumvent all these sanctions to get basically supplies to make nuclear weapons. So Iran's really showing their true colors, what they want to do. They want to annihilate Israel. So in the midst of that, you have Russia filling in some of the gaps in Syria. You have them, notice, remember, in the last few weeks, they've hauled all 150,000 troops on the border of the Ukraine, 70-some-odd thousand tanks and missile batteries. Well, now they've moved equipment down into Syria where U.S. bases were there in Syria. So absolutely amazing to see that happening, that they're getting closer and closer, moving down toward Israel, because that's what happens at the Ezekiel 38 war. In the middle of that, you got Iran letting Saudi Arabia be a part of some of the talks that are peace talks that are going on. So Saudi Arabia's getting more involved. They've never been involved before. Now they're getting involved. But Saudi Arabia's not mentioned attacking Israel, so they've been forming such a great friendship along with Jordan as well. So much is happening. This is probably intrigues me to have, you got Iran doing stuff, you got Russia doing stuff, and now you have China doing stuff. Remember, they've been doing stuff in the South China Sea, but this last week they unveiled a new nuclear submarine that will basically go beyond the subnet that we have in the Pacific Fleet, and basically their nuclear weapons can be fired to any city in the United States. That's not a big deal for us, but that's going to be happening during the tribulation. So, man, that's just the setup for the tribs happening right now. Also in China, you had China remove Bible apps from their app store, and you had them remove the Christian websites from the internet. So there's a clamping down, been going on for a while, but it's getting more and more specific all the time, so that it's hard to get the gospel out. So many things are happening on that front. Also, Russia is doing provocative things up by Alaska again. We've had to several times with B-52s going up there. Russian fighters have been buzzing them. So it looks like they're trying everything they can to make provocations. But the main thing is you got all this stuff happening that's getting ready to surround Israel. Also, in the political scene there in Israel, you have, it looks like this last night, the time's run out for Benjamin Netanyahu to form a new government, but he also came out right before that saying, hey, he offered Bennett a position to say, hey, I'll give you a year as a prime minister. I mean, they're rotating the prime ministership. It's just so intriguing to me. And not much has even come out about the rockets that were fired from Gaza. That kind of settled down. But right now, Israel and Lebanon are kind of making a peace agreement over their maritime areas on the northern border of Israel. So you got crazy things happening in Gaza with all the rockets the last few weeks. You have still some unrest around the Temple Mount. So all that's happening in conjunction with what's happening for the Ezekiel 38 war. And man, those nations for the Ezekiel 38 war absolutely are doing stuff. I mean, you have France selling fighter planes to Egypt. You got France selling some fighter planes to some other companies. So things are expanding all in the Middle East because that's where things are getting ready to heat up, specifically over Jerusalem. Talked about the Red Sea, the Dead Sea Scrolls that came out with some stuff, some technology proving the scripts of Isaiah are flawless. So I love that. Those things were preserved and held for several thousand years right there. So all this stuff is coming out archaeologically, fish in the Dead Sea, and all the other stuff about the Ezekiel 38 war. So it's getting so clear that Jesus is just about to come back, specifically the stuff with Iran. You have even the Biden administration, its Assistant Health and Human Service Director being basically a proponent of BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So that's exactly right, England. That's not cool that there's people in all of governments in the United States, all of the EU, that are totally against Israel going into the West Bank. Well, Israel passed another law where they're going to do some more settlements in the West Bank. Why would they do that? Because it's their land. So all this stuff is happening because Jesus is about to come back. How exciting. We look at this stuff not as an escape theology, but a hustle theology. As you see the finish line, you run faster, not slower. So we're so blessed to have all this technology to where we can see what's happening all around Israel. Pretty amazing. So we always go to the scriptures to look at the signs, because they're flawless, they're exact, they're precise. Israel made a nation and Jerusalem won back. Jesus said the generation that sees those two events will not pass away till all's fulfilled. But then you had the Hebrew language restored in our lifetime. Pretty amazing, because God said he would do it. Then you had the Ethiopian Jews brought back, 18,000 airlifted in one day. Amazing. Then you had the revival of the Roman Empire. Pretty radical. They said we felt like Romans on that day. What happened? It became the EU. That's the platform for the Antichrist. You can see the world getting ready for a reset, getting ready for, hey, let's use this currency, but your currency is going to be forgiven. Your debt's going to be forgiven. So we see that. You see the Capitol building in Strasbourg, France, identical to the Tower of Babel. Then you have the fertility of the land of Israel. It just preaches to us how God's word said he would make it blossom, and it has blossomed. Israel produces 90% of the fruit for all of Europe. A country the size of New Jersey produces that much, so it's absolutely amazing. So you have the Temple Mount Institute. You got them in position to start having sacrifices. That's pretty amazing. You have 172 different species of predatory birds that showed up in the land. You had fish showing up in the Dead Sea. You had foxes on the Temple Mount. You had the ritual baths around the Temple Mount fill up with water. You have the Sea of Galilee filling up with water. So all these things, you have men will be lovers themselves. We have selfie sticks. So you have everything the Bible says you see just before the coming of the Lord. I've had people go, well, those signs have all happened before. No, they've never happened before. No other generations had these. So it's very specific to our generation that Jesus said, if you see two of those, you're the generation he's coming back for. So how blessed are we that we know we're about to see the kings? So we go from signs, then you get into signals. You had blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles a few years ago, 4 in a row. NASA calls that a tetrad. Pretty amazing to have them, the heavens screaming to us, I died for you, I'm coming back. When's the last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles? Well, that would be 1967 when Jerusalem was won back. Be 1948 when Israel's made a nation. 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. So radical, amazing, and signals in the heavens in conjunction with things happening in Israel. After that, you had the Bethlehem Star this last year. Pretty amazing. When Jesus was born, you had Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus come together. Amazing. The constellation was Virgo. This last year, NBC Nightly News said we have a celestial event. We got Jupiter, we got Regulus, we got Venus, the Bethlehem Star. This time the constellation was Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. Amazing. You have more. You had several other signs in the heavens about the coming of the Lord. So specifically in conjunction with where Israel was told they can't even police their city of Jerusalem. So amazing that the heavens even declare the glory of God. So what do? Help our local church, help our local pastor, get the message out. This is it. I hear people say, well, are we sure the Lord's coming back? Jesus said the generation that sees two of those is it. So how blessed are we that all of a sudden we're going to see the King? We have worship songs, we worship Him and honor Him, but all of a sudden we're going to see His eyes as a flame of fire, feet like undefined brass, voice of many waters, King of kings and Lord of lords. We'll come back next week and we'll look at what's happened because, man, so much is lining up flawlessly for the Ezekiel 38 war. So that tells us the rapture of the church is not that far away. So we have a lot of work to do in a short period of time. Let's be soul winners. Let's be active. Let's finish our course. Let's accelerate. Let's look unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. Man, let your relationship with Him grow and strengthen because He's the King we're about to meet. Hey, come back next week and we'll see what happens. I know there's going to be a lot going on. So we're going to come back one week and Damascus will be removed from being a city. So exciting times, scary for the world, wonderfully exciting for the church. Have a blessed, wonderful week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the EDU at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.